I'm not going to waste any time on this one. If you're searching for a solid state amplifier that pulls a ton of detail out of the recording, throws it under the spotlight while manhandling a hefty sledgehammer when it comes to all things bass, and yet somehow doesn't break the bank in the process, well now folks, with a warm welcome back to New Record Day, have I got some good news for you. Welcome back to New Record Day. My name is Ron, and if you consider yourself an audiophile or a music enthusiast, welcome home. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell notification so you know when the next video drops. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Eversolo AMP-F10, a dual mono class AB power amplifier that's been making the rounds for its clean design, stacked spec sheet, and some pretty bold performance claims. As always, I've spent real time living with this thing, listening across different systems and setups, and I've got a lot to say about what it gets right and what you'll want to consider before dropping it into your rack. And yes, before we get rolling, this indeed does serve as your official ethics statement. Eversolo did send me the AMP-F10 for review, but they're not paying me, and there hasn't been any kind of chit-chat about keeping this amplifier in exchange for hyperbolic nonsense with a hefty helping of sunshine and rainbows. As always, all my thoughts and opinions are my own, and with that, let's dive in and check this thing out. The AMP-F10 is Eversolo's flagship dual mono power amplifier that blends refined Class AB sound with serious muscle. It starts in Class A at low levels for tonal richness, then seamlessly transitions to Class AB when more power is needed. Under the hood, each channel runs 5 matched pairs of high current MOSFET transistors. The power supply is a beast, a 1000 watt toroidal transformer feeding fully independent linear rails for each channel. That means solid current delivery and excellent channel separation. You're also getting DC filtering built right into the design to keep transformer hum out of the signal path, which of course is never a bad thing. Now, when it comes to raw output, the numbers don't disappoint. In stereo mode, you're looking at 200 watts per channel into 8 ohms or 320 watts into 4 ohms. Flip the switch around back, run it into bridged mono, and now you're sitting on 650 watts into 8 ohms and nearly 1000 watts into 4 ohms. So yeah, either way, with the AMP-F10, you've got more headroom than you're gonna know what to do with. And yes, the specs continue to impress with a total harmonic distortion that lands at just 0.008%. Signal to noise ratio clocks in at 113 decibels, and the damping factor is rated over 600. That kind of damping factor is what gives you incredible control over speakers, especially down below the belt. On the back, you've got both RCA and XLR inputs, a toggle for input sensitivity, 23 or 29 decibels, and a 12-volt trigger for system automation. And on the front, a brushed aluminum faceplate with dual analog VU meters that give the whole thing a bit of old school retro vibe. It's clean, it's solid, and it stacks beautifully with all of Eversolo's matching streamers. Now, even though we're off to a good start, and I certainly admire what Eversolo's done here, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and I always want to just keep it real and honest with you fine folks. First up, support. And Eversolo, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but as far as I can tell, as of now, there's no dedicated US repair centers for Eversolo. So, if something goes sideways after the warranty, getting it serviced might mean shipping overseas or dealing with a distributor that isn't exactly local. That's a gamble I think some folks need to consider before buying. Number 2, and this isn't a really big deal, but the amplifier runs warm. No, we're not talking like fried eggs kind of hot, but it's definitely not something that I would shove into a sealed cabinet. Just make sure it's got enough breathing room and you'll be just fine. And finally, those VU meters. They look fantastic. When they're bouncing with the music, it gives the amp some real character, But as others have already mentioned, they seem to be a little erratic as they bounce around. Because of this, to me at least, they're more decorative than functional. Also, they don't seem to be precisely calibrated, and there's no brightness control or way to shut them off, at least from what I've been able to figure out. So if you're in a dark room, they might be a little much. Right out of the gate, what struck me was just how precise and powerful this amplifier sounds, especially with bass. There's no added warmth throughout the midband, no sweetening in the mids, no syrupy bloom in the bass. It's not trying to impress you with color or euphonic weight. It's giving you every single brick in the recording one at a time. That is to say, this amp sounds very matter of fact, and depending on what you're used to, that can either feel refreshingly honest or a little dry. Now, in my own listening, there were moments where I found myself wanting a bit more liquid or emotional pull, especially in tracks where the mix was already on the lean side. The Eversolo doesn't mask that. It doesn't round anything off. Vocals are clean, precise, and centered, and instruments are well separated, and the stage is wide. But emotionally, well, it keeps its distance a bit. Now, to be clear, that's not necessarily a flaw. It's a choice, and for those who value precision, speed, and tonal accuracy above all else, the AMP-F10 is going to deliver that in spades, as far as I can tell. This is the amp for getting the nuts and bolts right in the recording and skipping past anything that would be soft or chill. Again, it's about getting straight to the point rather than being carried away by it. It won't charm you with warmth, but it will absolutely earn your respect with clarity and control. Speaking of control, let's talk bass. It's big, it's massive. There is no shortage of low-end energy here, and depending on your speakers and your room, it might even come across as, well, a little generous. There were moments in my listening where I felt it was just a hair overbaked, like the bottom end was starting to swell a bit more than the rest of the mix. Now, I don't want to overstate this because, well, a lot of folks, a lot of audiophiles really love bass, and this is going to sound powerful and very satisfying, but it's something that I noticed, and it might be worth keeping in mind if you are already sitting on a system that gives you more bass than you know what to do with. Now, mid-range is where things snap right back into place. It's clean, clear, and super focused. You're not getting that lush or liquid mid-range that some folks chase, myself included, but what you do get is a more tactile, precise kind of delivery. Vocals are dead center. Instruments are neatly separated, and it's easy to hear into the recording. It's not trying to charm you with warmth. It's more about resolution, and it's more about control. So, if your system already has a bit of warmth built in, maybe from tubes, a rich DAC, or full-bodied speakers, the Eversolo might be the perfect counterbalance in that kind of a situation. But if you're chasing emotional weight or that lush romantic sound, you might find this one to be just a little bit too honest. Now, in terms of comparisons, I spent time with this amp alongside a couple of others that I'm getting to know really, really well. First, the Legacy IV2, and then second, the Burson Timekeeper Voyagers. Now, each of these amplifiers bring something very different to the table, and that's why I'm including them in this review. This is about the Eversolo, but painting this picture requires a little bit of compare and contrast. Let's start with the Legacy IV2. Now, this is an amplifier that plays the detail game just as well as the Eversolo, but also shows a sense of restraint, or to my ears, sounds a little more, hey kid, relax. We're going to get there eventually, and we aren't in a dadgum hurry. In other words, it's not trying to win you over in the first 5 seconds. The IV2 sounds more relaxed through the heart of mid-range with an easygoing flow that feels a little more neutral even slightly subdued at times. But above the heart of midband, especially in upper harmonics, the IV2 keeps pace with the same show of fireworks that the Eversolo is lighting off. Also, what stood out is the way that it handles bass. It doesn't hit quite as hard as the Eversolo, but it's even-handed and it's composed. It feels linear, never showy, and would be a great fit in systems that already lean a bit forward or ultra detailed. There's a kind of mature ease to the Legacy that makes it easy to listen to for hours upon hours. Now, the Burson Timekeeper Voyagers, these are kind of an unfair comparison because they're quite a bit more expensive, but these continue to surprise me. Among these three amplifiers, the Burson offered the most impressive sense of focus and delineation. It peels apart the most dense recordings like it's nothing, yet never tips over into sterile or analytical. The mid-range is articulate and expressive, and the highs have this silkiness that adds this emotional pull. And here's the kicker. Despite being precise, the Burson doesn't come across as dry. In fact, there's a richness in its imaging that kept pulling me back in. It is detailed, yes, but my goodness, it is musical. Compared to the Eversolo, the Burson has a bit more finesse in the mid-range and top end, but the Eversolo hits back with sheer power. Of all three, the Eversolo AMP-10 delivers the most extended and impactful bass. It reaches deep, stays tight, and hits with great authority, without ever feeling super bloated or super exaggerated. There's also more transient energy in the low end, which gives it a punchier and more physical presentation. It's clean, it's fast, and grippy. And for those who want a little bit more muscle in their system's foundation, it's gonna be tough to beat. So where do they all land? Well, the Eversolo is going to appeal to listeners who want transparency, grip, and bass authority without spending crazy money. The Legacy IV2 is for those who value fireworks but also desire flow and musical maturity. And the Burson, well, the Voyager walks the line between both with the best blend of resolution and emotion of the three amps. But hey, that's me. What do you guys think? Only one way to find out. Throw on some headphones and let's run through some sound clips. All three amps were recording using my Earthworks QTC40s and Zoom F8N. The front end is my trusty Enuos Zenith and Maydac. The preamp being used is my Dodd Audio Tube preamp, and the speakers are the floor-standing version of my prototypes that are about to hit the market.
Engineer, where are you headed? Engineer, where are you headed? Engineer, where are you headed?
No hubiera pensado que yo me iba a enamorar, jamás no quería saber nada más, nunca más. No hubiera pensado que yo me iba a enamorar, jamás no quería saber nada más, nunca más. No hubiera pensado que yo me iba a enamorar, jamás no quería saber nada más, nunca más.
what did you hear in the clips? I'm curious, and I can tell you this much. This wasn't a casual recorded shootout. No, all 6 tracks were recorded back to back using the exact same setup. Same source, same preamp, same microphones, same recording levels. I used a reference grade signal chain and captured the output of each amplifier without touching the mic or changing a single setting between takes. And when I say level matched, I mean within 1/10 of a decibel, verified and re-verified across all 6 test tracks. The only variable is the amplifier. That's it. So, as you listened, what you heard isn't hype or imagination. You're hearing real, repeatable differences. The gear is being given a fair shot, and you get to decide what sounds right to you. And folks, there you have it. This amplifier is for the listeners who chase resolution. If you want to hear into the mix, all of the details, front and center, loaded with texture, the AMP-F10 does exactly that. It's the kind of amplifier that doesn't sugarcoat the truth. What's on the recording is exactly what you're going to hear. It's also a great fit if your system lacks bottom end and weight, and you're looking for an amp that brings clarity and control without swinging too far into sweet lies. But if you're someone who prioritizes tonal sweetness, mid-range warmth, or that tube-like romance in your sound, this might not be the best match, at least not without very careful system matching. It's a little bit dry by nature, a little more studio monitor than fireplace glow. And with that, I'll see you Eversolo loving audiophiles in the next video.